I came to have tea with my daughter. It was 2 years after our divorce. I was sitting in Moran's office. Moran was behind his desk and I was in the armchair. I told him, "You used to say I was not a good actress." The screenplay was on the desk. Until then, I had never seen Moran in his office. At home he used to lie on the sofa in his pajamas, his hand under his head, and he would fall asleep before I got to him from the kitchen. Between you and me, he was right. I was not a good actress. If I had been, I would have let him sleep till morning. If I had been a good actress, I wouldn't have gone and caressed his bald head so much, put a pillow under his head, covered him with a blanket, and kept the food warm in the oven so that whenever he woke up and said, "I am hungry," I could set it in front of him. He could scarf it down and go on writing his useless screenplays. He said, "You are successful only if you play Layli." I said, "Cut. For which Majnoon? Aren't you the optimistic one?" He looked at me as though he had found a Majnoon. I am sure he told him that he was successful only in the role of Majnoon. I wanted to ask him why he left me if he thought I would be a good Layli. One doesn't walk out on Layli. It seemed he understood what I wanted to say from the look on my face, as always. He began, "There are many men who would enjoy Layli like women. I am not like that." I said, "There are many women who would enjoy philosopher like men. I am not like that." He said, "One must have existence to be a philosopher." I said, "How about being Majnoon?" He said, "You have only a Layli-like existence." Does that mean he has the existence of a philosopher and a Majnoon, not to mention many other existences? He thinks he majored in women. When I read his screenplay I realized he was dead wrong. It was the first time I read his script. I haven't seen any of his movies. He never took me on the set. He never took me anywhere. On the last day, I stood before him and said I wanted to be a film actress. He gave me one of his malicious laughs and said, "You want to register your face in history." It would be nice to turn his response against him. But I was not a philosopher. Somehow, clumsily, I exaggerated the idea of his being an artist. I asked him why he didn't understand that I like being an actress. I went on about the love of acting and such like nonsense. While I was talking, he was looking at me as the wise man would look at the fool. Finally, he said that what he understood perfectly well was that I was not a good actress. He went on to say that I lacked the skill to present myself as beautiful. He said I didn't know how to walk properly, let alone try to act and imitate others. He said one word over and over, I don't remember it. He kept saying that I don't have that. He said something I remember well, "Your beauty has no feeling." He said nobody would come and invest much time and money to show me. At this point I blew up and said, "Shut up." Very coldly and calmly he said, "That does it. Do you understand, my dear? A woman who tells me shut up should leave here. Go to hell and do whatever you want." He then left the house. I didn't know which hell I was supposed to go to. I got scared. I saw no trace of Moran wherever I looked, as if Moran had never lived in this house. Nothing of him, not even a pair of pants or a sock, could be found in the house. When I entered the kitchen, I saw it had become like me. I was amazed at the cleanliness and order of the kitchen, as if it was the first time I saw it like that. In the dish rack there was one plate, one spoon, one glass, one cup and one saucer all washed. Only one had been pulled back from the chairs around the kitchen table. A small pot was on the stove and one small fruit basket was on the table. The small copper kettle was boiling on the burner. The furnace was so clean that it shone. The flowered tiles of the kitchen seemed to be consoling me. How often I had scrubbed them. The checked curtain of the kitchen stood kindly behind the window as if it were on guard. The refrigerator seemed to smile at me and offered me cold water. Even the red basket of onions and potatoes had become redder. Oh, you don't know, Parvana, that day I wanted to pick up a watering can and water the rug's flowers. I became a poet only a few minutes after he left. It was not time for my period, but I started bleeding, and I was thrilled that my uterus walls had not been prepared to accept Moran's seed and had collapsed. I am writing all this for you so that you know that if one day you come back to Iran, you won't question me. I did not even know that I could one day sit and write to you. Wait, Parvana. I want to fix myself a cup of tea in a pretty color and then write to you with the rest. Since that day, I haven't seen Moran until the divorce court and then in his office. Listen. I had never enjoyed the Blue Danube so much. Moran used to say, "You have no ear for music." He was right. He had cut off my ear the night the film crew was invited to dinner at our place. They had decided to start a new movie. Moran had never invited anyone home. They used to go to the restaurant, and at the end of the evening Moran would come home, sit at the dining table and write his nonsense. He was right. I could have been a better actress. I thought I had married a philosopher who preferred writing to being next to me. I thought I was a low, illiterate woman who liked to be looked at by her husband. A philosopher's wife fixes tea for her man all day long, watches her husband when he writes, and empties his ashtray. He was right, and I was not a good actress. Because I had shut up and didn't want anything from God, I would have pretended that nothing had happened if I were a good actress that night after the guests left. It is true that Moran had touched the shoulder of that actress and kept flirting with her, but so what? An actress, especially if she is the wife of a philosopher, understands pretty well that there is a friendly and humane relationship between a director and his crew. Stupid people cannot understand that. I should not have thought that Moran put his hand around the shoulders of that actress on purpose, or that that poor woman took Moran's hand and laughed on purpose. But they didn't have to think I intentionally poured all that salt into the salad. I took the salt shaker and shook it on the salad to avoid hearing anything. But it was useless. The actress spoke to me only when she liked the taste of a dish. From Moran's description, I understood she had a challenging role in Moran's movie. But it was evident from her demeanor that she could not. The producer told Moran, "I bet your wife could act much better as a blind woman." Moran was screaming, "Do you think that when two jackass producers said something nice about you, and then one side of my face felt empty and my voice saying, 'ow' filled my head?" I fell on the table, on the ashtrays full of cigarette butts. The ash and dust went into my nose. I wasn't a good actress. If I were, I wouldn't take his hand, I wouldn't kiss it, and I wouldn't place it on my slapped face to soothe the pain. If I were a good actress, I would have pounded all the ashtrays on his head, and I would have forced all those cigarette butts into his nose so that he would have choked. Parvana, if Moran knew that I would not have brought his guests to the house, he would not have stayed at your place. If I were a good actress, I would have pretended that nothing had happened, so that Moran would not have taken his guests to other areas. If I were a good actress, I would have continued to be a pimp for Moran and his guests. Parvana, I had no ear for music. My eardrum was torn that very night. The doctor said, "It will heal by itself, just be careful that water does not get into it." How can water get into a slapped ear? Oh, I have never enjoyed the Blue Danube so much. Listen. It seems that the eardrum has healed. I am going to pour myself the tea. This tea tastes like your teas, Parvana. You said those teas should attain their full flavor to become honest tea. Would you happen to remember? First you would put the empty teapot on the samovar to warm it up, and then you would mix tea with ground cardamom and orange blossom, and only you know the proportions. And then you would pour it all into the heated pot. Then you would pour a little bit of the boiling water of the samovar on the mixture to make it wet, and then you would put it on the samovar to allow the tea to draw. You would put the beautiful teapot cover you had sewed on the pot so that the tea drew. Oh, how much I loved the sound of pouring tea in those fat and clean teacups. How wonderful were you looking at the tea you had brought into life. When you were drinking the tea sip by sip, you looked somewhere as if you were talking to someone. When the smell of your tea filled the house, I used to sit next to you, and then I kept talking. I was beginning to chatter, and you would shake the one leg that was hurting you and you would move around on the floor. You took care to pour me another tea when my teacup was empty. You used to say anything sweet except sugar cubes, but it is lovely with tea. You liked having tea with raisins, dried figs, dates, sweet berries, etc. There were always things like that on the tea table, on the small steel or crystal plates. When drinking, you liked everything around you to be clean and orderly and didn't want to rush. And when we were having tea, you picked me, telling you everything. You said you liked me to talk to you while looking at my white fingers and long nails as I drummed them on the table. While talking, I used to drum on the teacups, waiting for you to say something. It was during my senior year at the university when one afternoon, while we were having tea, I told you about Moran, that I had fallen in love with him and would like to become his wife. That day when I had broken off what I was saying and was drumming on the teacups so you would say something, you didn't say anything. You were drinking your tea sip by sip and were looking somewhere else. I was in such a mood that the rug we sat on while talking about Moran seemed like King Solomon's flying carpet. The same rug you used to sit on one corner, busy sewing while I was studying on another. I was saying that Thursday is my friend's birthday. I showed you a style in Burda magazine and asked you to make it for me. When I brought the clothes, you would ask which day of the week they were. Then you would say the cloth should be cut on Wednesday, sewn on Thursday and worn on Friday. I would laugh. I would say that from now on I will tell kids to be born on Fridays. You would say that on Fridays one should not touch the cloth with scissors because it would be jinxed and never finished. By the way, Parvana, why did you let us get married on a Friday? When did you sew my wedding dress? Oh, how much you cried. Moran, to whom I had talked a lot about you, was whispering in my ear, it seems that Parvana doesn't want her cocoon to fly away. I was looking at you. Stupid me. I didn't want to spoil the makeup on my eyes, so I held back my tears. And Moran was whispering under my ear, it seemed that my mother had cried that night, the night I became the bride of acacia branches. Later on when you would see me, you used to say, he stole your heart with these airs and graces. And I used to say, dear Parvana, I wasn't stupid. And you used to say, well, I think you were. For Farrokhzad herself was not as stupid as you are. And I was in the kitchen mixing those poems with the rice, placing them on the skewer, and barbecuing them on the stove. All my existence, I used to say, and I didn't know whose existence Moran was turning into a movie. Dear Parvana, I had never read any of his screenplays, but I was sure he wanted to make a movie about my existence at that time. Get up, Parvana. Pour me a cup of tea, so that I can tell you about it. I wish Shahab were here to sing for us. Parry, listen to me, get up and start the samovar. Don't tell Shahab anything now. I am going to write him myself. No, I'll call him. No, I don't have money. Tell him to spend a few of those dollars he is taking from imperialists on me and call me. I am sure he would ask about Moran first. In the past 2 years I have always said, we are fine. Are you good with each other? Oh, wonderful. Well, thank God. You know, Parvana, I was right. Since Moran and I have separated, we are good. You are so wonderful that you don't ask why I haven't told you or Shahab anything in the past 2 years. You weren't here, so the sound of your pouring tea in the cup would spread through the house and I would start talking. That day in Moran's office, as soon as he said that he wanted me to act in his new movie, that sound of your pouring tea turned in my head. The smell of cardamom and the orange flower essence filled my nose and I craved to talk to you. The concierge brought 2 glasses of boiling water and 2 tea bags with 4 sugar cubes. It's the same kind that you don't like. I didn't touch them. I remembered how much you cried on the wedding night. You were not saying anything. You were smiling at everyone. But tears were coming down. The women were saying these are tears of joy. Mother and daughter are friends. Since the father died they have clung to each other. I was sitting next to Moran. Above my head, the women were whispering. They thought I couldn't hear them since I put on a lot of makeup and my head was wrapped up in lace. She managed to raise her daughter with a sewing machine. She is right. The sound of the sewing machine was mixed with the master of ceremonies' voice. I wish that when I went to pick flowers, I had never come back. The master of ceremonies said, "Dear bride, may I be your representative?" I was next to Moran, who was entirely present. But the woman said, "The bride has gone to pick flowers." When I picked the flowers, the master of ceremonies repeated, "Dear and respected bride." I was going to give him the yes, but the woman said, "The bride is making a bouquet out of the flowers." When I made the bouquet, Moran's hand was in mine. I pressed it and said, "Yes." And the petals of the flowers I had made a bouquet fell on my head. I felt a constriction in my heart. Women who attend weddings do not know anything other than tearing the petals off the flowers. Parvana, whatever happens to me is because of these women who attend weddings. They are all alike. They are all actors. I don't know who invited them. Wherever there is a wedding, they appear. They come to take the flowers that the poor bride has picked and has made into a bouquet, rip the petals off and strike her head with them. I wish I had never gone to pick flowers. Damn all gladiolas. Have you ever seen such a rough, ugly flower, Parvana? It reminds me of the wedding women. They all wear similar clothes and put on similar makeup, they dance like each other and they eat like each other. Ah, damn all gladiolas. Maybe if I had picked carnations or narcissi or even red flowers. Moran used to say, "A red flower is a red flower is a red flower." And I would say, "Don't cheat, Mr. Gertrude Stein. We have been at the university too." But he would keep his composure. He would whistle and walk and very cool would say, "Therefore the red flower is not a red flower. No red flower." Dear Parvana, at the university, girls were taught to marry philosophers. On the first day of shooting, the red flower was not red. The setting arranged by Moran was the wedding room. He told me to wear the wedding dress and sit next to Ali. The wedding women, the gladiolas, everything was ready so that the red flower wouldn't be a red flower. However, Ali and I had practiced so that it would be. Moran wanted the red flower to be a red flower at any price. Moran had told me not to look up and to say yes softly. I said it, and this time the petals of the flowers I had not picked and of which I had not made a bouquet were ripped apart and thrown on my head. The frightening sound of the wedding women was heard. I couldn't hear the sound of your sewing machine, Parvana. But I had read the screenplay attentively and practiced, so I wouldn't be afraid. Moran had told me to smile at Ali when he took the bridal veil off my face, one of those smiles that he loved and that would drive people crazy. He had also taught Ali how to look at me. Ali was the best actor. Everybody knew him. He had practiced a lot to, as he put it, revivify his passionate tone. He looked at me and whispered, "So much beauty for my eyes only." Ali was talking, and Moran came toward me with the camera. But I was the worst actress. I smiled for no reason and told Ali, "Thank you." Moran yelled, "Cut! We don't have any thank you, Shahzad." They all laughed. I wish Shahab had been there to joke with me a bit. They started shooting again. Ali said, "So much beauty for my eyes only." He said it much better this time than the previous time, precisely as Moran had taught him. He was like Moran. So I forgot that this was acting. I stared at Ali Moran. I didn't act. I said, "For you." Moran yelled, "We don't have for you, Shahzad." Ali said, "Why not? It is wonderful. It is much better than, I have always been waiting for this moment." Moran said, "Okay. We'll continue." And said, "Action." Ali picked up the ring box and put the ring on my finger. The sound of the wedding women was heard. It was my turn, Parvana. I had practiced so that I wouldn't panic. I turned the ring around on Ali's finger and moved it down. I kept my fingers on the ring. I didn't act. I looked at him. My face was burning. Moran said, "That was excellent." Cut. They cleaned the table. People went about their business. We took off the rings and put them away. Moran's voice was heard everywhere. Ali went to the locker room. No one was paying attention to me. I was sitting on the stool with the wedding dress, looking at Moran's badly proportioned body, which was moving about. The next set was in the living room. I went to the locker room, changed and came back. Ali was looking at the armchair I was supposed to sit on and practicing his lines. I said, "Are you talking to the armchair?" He said, "In a way." And then he turned toward me and said, "You were excellent, wonderful." The commotion of the wedding women was heard. Shooting began. Moran said, "Action." I was sitting in the same armchair and knitting, and Ali was facing me, watching me and playing with a ball of wool. I asked, "Don't you ever tired of watching me so much? Do you get tired?" I get embarrassed. My poor pullover. I would never lose your hands. I should have become a painter, Layli. AY. You can draw on a computer and that is just fine. A computer cannot draw such a beautiful Layli. Hell. I don't know what that lunatic Moran thinks I. Layli said, "You have mistaken me for someone else, I swear." Ali said, "Layli in the eyes of Majnoon." I said, "Get up, Majnoon. We didn't sleep last night either. If I don't sleep, I'll get old." We got up and Moran said, "Cut." Moran yelled, "Camera. Action." I began walking. I was rubbing my hands together and walking into the salon. I looked at the clock. It was 1 hour after midnight. I went in front of the mirror. I returned. I waited momentarily and looked at the desk in the corner of the set. Ali was also supposed to be a poet, with an unfinished poem on the desk. I looked at the clothes stand, a piece of casual menswear was hanging from it. I also looked at the men's slippers placed next to the armchair. I went and opened the door of the bathroom and looked at the toothbrushes. From now on I will have to walk faster. I pulled open the drawer in front of the mirror and stared at the things inside. Then I closed it fast and went into the bedroom. I stared at the double bed. I went and opened the closet and began looking at the men's clothes, one by one. Layli was supposed to take the men's shoes from their boxes and look at them individually. Layli was supposed to stare like crazy at a man's briefcase in the corner of the setting. I gazed at the bag and murmured, "His socks." Layli was looking for her Majnoon's socks and I was thinking about Moran's socks. He used to throw them away when there was a hole in them. I used to tell him, "Let me sew them." He used to say, "Torn socks are not to be mended, they should be thrown away." Layli murmured, "No. His name." I would ask Moran, "Why do people call me by your last name but you are not called by mine?" Moran would say, "Is this all you have learned from women's rights?" "Dear Parvana, do you remember what you said?" You said, "No, you have also learned all the poems of Fora Farrokhzad." All my existence, all my existence. Layli was supposed to jump toward the table next to the bed, open one of the drawers, pull out Majnoon's birth certificate, flip through 2 or 3 pages, stop on a page, stare at it for a while and then say, "Then he. Where is he?" I was not acting, Parvana. It was Layli. I was supposed to calm down once the bell rang. And then I had to say, "He has forgotten to retake the key." Slowly, I put the birth certificate back in the drawer. I went and pressed the buzzer key and came back to the bedroom. Behind the door, I sat on the edge of the bed. Ali was supposed to go in and look at me, puzzled. I felt Ali's look on the back of my neck. I said slowly, "Which one of your poems did you read tonight?" "The Layli one." "Why didn't you take her herself?" "One needs to take Layli all over the place. She is too precious." "But the poem." "Majnoon. You were here." Ali said, "I am your Majnoon 6 and laughed and came to embrace Layli. But I stood up, quick and nervous. I took a set of men's clothes from the closet. Ali was supposed once more to look at me, puzzled. I took the clothes and went toward the clock. I stood there and looked at the clock. It was past 2 a.m. I also picked up the men's shoes. Ali was supposed to follow me in a daze. I also picked up a pair of men's socks, stood before the clock with the clothes, shoes and socks, and stretched my hands toward it. I told the clock, "Here he is." He came. Ali wanted to say something. I didn't let him. I went and took a set of men's underwear. I took it in my other hand and went toward the clock. I showed it to the clock and said, "He is always here." He. Ali yelled, "Have you gone mad?" He had come next to me. I turned and pushed him away. I went and placed the clothes on top of each other on the bed in a very orderly fashion. First the underwear, then the shirt and jacket and pants. Part of the pants fell off the bed and onto the floor. I placed the socks under the pants legs and put the shoes on the top of the socks. Ali was supposed to feel pity and come near me, take my hands and raise me from the floor. But as soon as he came close, I made a few moves and pushed him away. I looked at the clothes and said, "Take me in your arms. I feel sleepy." Ali sat beside me on his knees, pounded his fists on his thighs and yelled, "Enough of this stupid game." Louder than Ali, I yelled at the clothes, "Take me in your arms. I feel sleepy." Ali picked the clothes up individually and threw them all around the room. I ran after them, picking them up and taking them in my arms, saying, "Take me in your arms. I feel sleepy." Dumbfounded, Ali said, "Layli, I am here myself. Why are you doing that?" I turned to Ali. I saw him for the first time. Can you believe that, Parvana? Until that moment, I hadn't seen him. I didn't know what he looked like. I looked and realized he was not Moran. His voice, tone, the way he said, "I am here myself." His black eyebrows and pupils were the color of coal, and the line that this coal was stretching toward my eyes. I looked at him for a while. Moran was following the scene worriedly, waiting for me to continue. But I was standing motionless, stupid, and could not continue. Moran yelled, "Cut!" I came to myself. Moran said, "Mashazad, the real fight begins just now. Have you forgotten the lines?" I turned toward Moran. I didn't know him. He was looking at me like an enemy. I didn't know him. I realized that 2 years ago, no, that very moment, I separated from him. You know, Parvana. I saw that I didn't even hate him anymore. I didn't know him at all. I kept looking at him and said, "No, I haven't forgotten anything." He said, "Good. Look at Ali like you are looking at me and say the rest of the lines." I turned toward Ali and said, "I can't. The teas you used to make were always delicious, even when they were cold. Sometimes I would talk so much that the tea would get cold. You would say, 'It got cold.' Now I always drink hot tea. I don't speak, my tea doesn't get cold. The second tea has gotten cold, next to the pages I am writing for you. You call from America and say, 'Don't stay alone, my dear. Anytime you feel depressed, leave Moran alone for a while and come and stay with us for a while. Just tell Shahab, he will arrange it. Dear Parvana, please stop sending me vitamins and aspirins. I am going to send you orange blossom. I heard you pouring tea from here. My eardrum has healed and my ears are filled with cardamom and orange blossom." Moran said, "Shahzad, don't you listen? Hello. Are you still on the phone?" I said, "This phone that you placed in my hand, Moran." "Well, Mom, you too are becoming a philosopher. Let me do my act in the movie. As soon as a couple of people say something nice about you, I am not going to act at all. Go to hell." And he hit the receiver on the cradle. My eardrum cracked. Ali said, "Hello. Mushazad." My eardrum was the leaf of an orange blossom. I said, "I can't. I am going to come over there right now." And the receiver slept over the leaf of orange blossom. I had not finished my prayers yet. Ali had said, "Pray for ungrateful creatures like us." While folding my prayer chador, I said, "Thank you, God. I went to the closet. Do you remember, dear Parvana, what a beautiful pink dress you had made for me? I still have it. It brings me luck. The day that Moran left me, I had it on. Moran said, "What is this? Pink does not become you at all." And also that day that your hands were destroyed. I put on the pink dress and went to the kitchen. My soup was boiling in my small pot. Moran used to say, "Stay alone. Keep eating soup and salad and reading Faw's poems until you dry up. All my existence, all my existence." Parvana forgot to mention yoga. Shahab used to pass his fingers through my hair and say, "Yogi, are you all right?" Moran always said, "You have put your head where your feet should be. Instead of these things, think a little bit." But when I saw one scene of the movie he had brought home, I went to the bathroom and threw up. Moran said, "Damn. What was I thinking? You know nothing about aesthetics. You don't understand at all." I understood, and I threw up. I was still throwing up until the following day when I came to see you. I couldn't look at myself in the store windows. When I got there, I ran to the bathroom and threw up. You said, "You got pregnant so soon." I yelled from the bathroom, "Get the tea ready, dear Parvana. The blue Danube feels so good, like the sound of pouring tea into your teacups with handles. Dear Parvana, the eardrum does not tear." You poured the tea, I talked, and I cried like a baby. I asked, "Why did Moran show me that movie?" Because he wanted to say, "We men are alike." You poured yourself tea and softly said, "No." He showed you the movie because he wanted to say you are all alike. I ran to the bathroom and began to throw up. Moran poured himself a vodka and said, "Stupid, I wanted to open your eyes and ears to new things. You don't know anything about the bed culture." You said, "Is this called culture to bring a bunch of strange jackasses home and show them to your wife?" Parvana, I finally understood something about aesthetics. It means the loud moaning of beautiful male and female dogs. The beats of our hearts did not have any beauty. It took me a while to realize that men are all naked and do not like that beautiful pink dress on me. I wore that loose long pink dress and went to the mirror. I took my pink lipstick from the drawer and put it on twice. I drew a fading line around my lips, then they became the same innocent lips you liked. You said, "Whoever said your lips are voluptuous is a stupid ass." Such innocent lips. Moran used to say, "Mothers like to think that their daughters are innocent. She is jealous of me." I was saying in a poetic tone, "I wish the rough face of my father would rub my cheek again." Shahab would say, "Give me a kiss, that would make me feel better." I lowered the heat under the soup. I diced tomato, cucumber and lettuce in a small bowl. I poured some lemon juice and olive oil on it. I laid 2 plates for soup and 1 small basket of bread on the kitchen table and waited. If Shahab were there he would say, "The Feather by Matteson." But Ali had already eaten his dinner. I could hear Moran's voice through the wall, "Leave these things for the cat, let's go and have chelakabab." Since when have cats become vegetarians? Since the amount of leftover meat in the garbage has increased, the cat's cholesterol has increased. I went to the kitchen to pour Ali a cup of tea. I heard Moran's voice through the wall, "Wow, finally you left the mirror alone." With a tray in hand, I was in the living room. I said, "Be quiet." Ali said, "Who are you talking to?" "Ah. To the cat." "Do you keep a cat at home?" "Inside the home?" "Ah, no. Outside." Ali stared at me. I forced myself to laugh. Ali began murmuring politely, saying that I shouldn't be going into trouble, and I said, "You are less polite in the movies. In the movie, I am Layli's lover. Layli's poet. By the way, Ms. Shahzad, what do you think of this Majnoon?" "Which Majnoon?" I don't know what I said that made Ali very serious and polite. He said, "The only Majnoon here is in the movie." He had come just to say that. The rest could have been more helpful. But I decided to remain the Layli of Moran's movie, to ruin the film. When Ali left, I had the craving to play with paper. It had been many years since I had played with paper, scissors and glue. Even when Moran left, I didn't play with paper. Do you remember Parvana? Anytime you saw me playing with paper, you would say, "What is the matter again? Come on. I will make you a delicious tea, we'll talk a bit, and you will feel better. Big girls don't play with paper." By the way, Parvana, what did you do with those gazelles I had made of paper? You used to show them to me and say that when Dad died, everybody was crying, and I was in a corner making paper gazelles and glued them to the walls and doors. You said that until the 40th day after Dad's death, I had made 400 gazelles, and they covered all the walls in the house, so nobody was allowed to touch them. I brought paper, glue and scissors when Ali left and got busy. I cut a piece like a man's shirt. Under it, with a black marker, I drew a belt. I cut 2 black legs and glued them to big black shoes, an extensive head profile with a rectangle on one side like a mouth. I drew an eye right on the rectangle as if he were looking outside. I blackened above the rectangle for his hair. I didn't make a nose. I glued the rectangle with a tiny piece of paper to the shirt. I glued on the hands and legs as well. I took his hand and went on to the kitchen. The soup had burned and was stuck to the bottom of the pot. The dummy liked the salad very much. A cat's meow came to the house. Neither the dummy nor I paid any attention. I heard Moran's voice, "Cut." Moran yelled, "Camera. Action." Quietly, I stood behind Ali and looked at the paper on the table before him. Ali started and turned toward me. He pulled the chair out and threw it on the floor. Embarrassed, he said, "What are you looking at?" "Nothing. I just wanted to say that dinner is ready. Leave me alone, go. Leave me alone." I went to the kitchen and picked up a piece of cloth. I knelt and began scrubbing the kitchen floor. I kept scrubbing until Moran said, "That is good. Cut." Moran said, "Action." I took the thermometer out of Ali's mouth, looked at it, and put it in the glass filled with alcohol. Ali had a fever and was lying down under a blanket. I pulled the blanket over him. I went to the kitchen, picked up the cloth, kneeled, gazed at the wall and scrubbed the floor, exactly like the girl in that Kurosawa movie. Dumbfounded and confused, I kept scrubbing until Moran said, "Cut." Moran said, "Action." I moved the strip of my handbag on my shoulder and went into the shoe store. Layli and Ali were still single. I came out with a shoebox. The gypsy woman was coming toward me from the end of the street. There were many shoe stores and women on the street. I was passing by the women's shoe stores and was getting closer to the gypsy woman. Women were going to different stores. I was supposed to be happy. I was. Parvana, I was pleased between us because I had a beautiful pair of pink sandals in my shoebox. When the gypsy woman came closer, she stared at me. Before I could do anything, she pulled me toward the street. She said, "Wait. I see something in your eyes." My eyes were supposed to shine. They did. I said, "What do you see?" My God, you have beautiful eyes and eyebrows. You need a whole bag of salt to protect you from the evil eye." I laughed from the bottom of my heart. She said, "Come and sit here. Let me talk to you. Thank God you are nice. I have to tell you. If I don't, it will weigh my heart." I let myself go. The gypsy took me and sat me on the step behind the fences. She said, "I swear to Hazrati Abbas, you are so sweet. I like you, and that is why of all these women, I want to see your future." Instead of looking at my palm, the gypsy stared at my eyes and around herself. "What is your name?" "Layli." "Are you married?" I was going to marry Ali. "Not yet." "Let me see. You are lucky, you have good fortune and are alone and sad. You don't know your friends and enemies. There is a man who loves you. To him you are more than the whole world. You scream a lot, are moody and are a bit stubborn. If you want something, you do 10 things at once, but if you don't like something, you don't do so much as lift your hand. She was talking so fast. I looked down and began laughing. I feared Moran would say cut, but he didn't. I said, well, I am going to see him here. Before he comes, tell me if you see anything good in my future. My hand was in the gypsy's, and she was looking around. You are a noble bride. Your friends love you. You flirt with gold, and you love to play with silk. Pretty soon your hand will be decorated in henna. You are simple and don't distinguish between your friends and enemies. I am telling you this because I love you. Get to the point. He will be here soon. I have to go. I laughed. The gypsy said, thank God you are so sweet. Please give me something, make me happy so I can tell you the rest. Thank God you are very nice. You are sweet, and you have a garden in Vanak. You are beautiful, your eyebrows are like a lasso, and your eyes are drunk. Put your hand in your purse and make me happy so I can tell you. I bought a pair of shoes. I spent all I had. If you want to tell, tell. If you don't want to, don't. I took the shoes out of the box, put my black low-heeled shoes in the box and put on my pink sandals. The gypsy said, thank God you have a taste. Give me 200 tomans and I'll tell you the rest. Then I won't have money to go home. The one who loves you will give it to you. The one who is coming here. I stared at her. You said it yourself just now. The man who loves you is ready to die for you. Wherever you go, people love you. But not everyone finds the way to your heart. He says, I will give my head, my life, but I won't leave you. Everyone is ready to sacrifice himself for you. Wherever you go, you are the sweetest one. But there are a mother and daughter who cannot see you so sweet. But he wouldn't listen to anyone. But who knows? Many upper-class ladies have asked me to write them a prayer, so that they can take it to Europe. Many have asked me, but I haven't written. You are so sweet. God knows I liked you, so I told you all this. Make me happy now, and I'll give you something that will make you unique in whatever you do. I will give you a talisman of love that will work everywhere. Before I could say anything, Ali arrived behind, put a bill in the gypsy's hand, and said, give her a talisman so that she will never forget me, so that she will always be crazy about me. The coal of his eyes stretched toward me. Ali was supposed to be happy. He was. And I was supposed to laugh. I was laughing. God knows I will pour good luck in her eyes just for you. The gypsy unknotted the corner of her scarf, brought out a few colorful marbles, and showed them to me one by one. Oh, the talisman of love and affection, oh Layli and Majnun, oh snake horns, go into a green cloth. May there be love. May there be affection. May my love be in everybody's heart. Ali interrupted her and said, oh no. You should say that may the love of Layli be only in Ali's heart. The gypsy didn't pay any attention and continued her words. May whoever does magic to me lose their validity. Ali said, what are you talking about? What is magic? What is invalid? Magic is bad, making it invalid is good. I mean, it would be good if these things were said. Please put this in a green piece of cloth and keep it with you always. Whatever you want will come to you, you won't go to it. Ali said, none of these things would do me any good. Give me some of your magic potion. The gypsy didn't pay any attention to Ali. Ali was looking at me. The gypsy told me, don't forget the snake horns. Tell him to. No one would talk behind your back. Everyone is ready to die for you. Ali said, I am dying for her, isn't that enough? Moran yelled, cut. He blamed the gypsy and told her that she had talked too much. The gypsy said, that's it. Movie or no movie. Whatever I said was true. Now you put your hand in your pocket and make me real happy. I can see your future too. I am supposed to take a prayer to a lady's house at 10 sharp. I am late, hurry up, mister. Moran said, camera. Action. I was sitting next to Ali in the car. Ali was driving. I pushed the back of the seat down. I slept. I was supposed to have a dream. Moran said, cut. I fell asleep. I began dreaming. You know, Parvana, I wanted to dream about a red star. I wanted to dream about someone's coming. Stay alone. Keep eating salad and soup and reading Four's poems until you dry up. Parvana should have mentioned yoga. In my dream everything was upside down, the world was upside down. People were walking on their hands, legs in the air and asking each other, Yogi, how are you? And a big mouth was chewing lettuce. In my dream I saw Fora dreaming. Do you remember, Parvana? I told you that I would interpret Four's dream. You young people think you can change the world with a few poems. Did you see, Parvana, everybody was upside down. The world was upside down. Did you know that we could walk on our hands? Moran used to tape me and develop the films upside down so I would stand straight and fall in love with him. I was walking and shouting in the street when I saw someone was videotaping me. I shook my fist toward Moran's camera and screamed louder. Moran did not give up. You said, what happened then for all your shouting in the street? Shout a little bit at Moran. Didn't you want to change the whole world? Parvana, Moran was always behind the camera. How could one shout at him? He found me from behind the camera and lost me in front of it. With the camera, he followed me all through the demonstration until I got home. I said, why did you tape me, sir? What use is it to you? He said, your tape is a nation's movie. You said, he is right. He has taken a nation into his house and is torturing it. I was at your place when we turned on the TV and saw people wearing black and crying. They had placed the older man on the ice and were carrying him. How many years did it take me to fall in love with Moran? You said, as much as the time one needs to drink 400 cups of tea. I liked the older man. I wanted to jump inside the TV, search the ice and find him. Oh, how much I enjoyed talking to him. I went to my papers, glue and scissors. You said, big girls don't play with paper. I said, dear Parvana, get your tea table ready. You went to make tea and I cut out 400 flowers, 5 petals each. You were pouring tea and I was cutting out flowers and everybody was crying. The TV showed a woman taking her hand underneath her chador and hitting herself on the chest. I raised my head and poured the paper flowers on my head. You said, what the hell is wrong with you? I said, I had dreamt that he would bring me tea on a tray. And 2 small streams of tears passed my neck and went down to my chest. That day the only thing I wanted to have with my tea was dates. After the war, Shahab always had chocolate. Moran used to drink vodka before the war, and he continued to drink vodka after the war. I had gotten used to dates. Moran used to say, hey, with that dark complexion it is quite becoming. Shahab was telling a story. During the attack we just had chocolate and water. A special kind of chocolate, one of them would give you 4 or 5 hours of energy. Moran used to drink 4 or 5 glasses of vodka and sleep 14 to 15 hours. And after waking up he would say, actually yoga is not that bad. And inside the TV was dark and the TV glass was wet. The TV was hitting itself on the head, and my paper flowers had been mixed with the flowers of the rug. It is excellent to become a poet overnight. Parvana, get the tea table ready. The poem of this letter has traveled from the time I was not born yet, and has come to the world of you, Layli and me. I came home and told my dummy, action. And I stuck my dummy to the wall with a thumbtack. On the set they took back my pink sandals. But I brought the marbles of the gypsy woman, put them in a piece of green cloth, and placed them under the chest of my dummy. Moran said, action. At the house of Layli and Ali, there was a poetry night. The woman who was supposed to be a poet said, I have written this poem for Ali. And read your mountain-like arms. After she finished the poem, Ali smiled and told the female poet, I have written this poem for you. And he read, "And my hand's always toward you." Layli was supposed to bring tea and offer it to the poets. I came in, tray in hand, in the middle of the poems and offered tea. The woman said, "Thank you." I said, "No problem. It is just a poem." People looked at each other. Layli was supposed to look at the woman's feet and see Ali's sandals on her feet. The tray was trembling in my hands. The camera was supposed to show the tray trembling in my hands, then focus on the woman's feet and show that she has her shoes on. Then again show Layli, who is looking at the woman's feet and this time sees her pink sandals. The tray and all the cups, except the one the female poet had taken, had to fall and be broken into pieces. Then Layli was supposed to look down to the floor and say miserably, "Excuse me." I let the tray and cups fall on the floor. I was looking at the floor and the poets. I said, "Excuse me." Parvana, I had never said, "Excuse me," not even to my teachers. We could hear the demonstrations outside from the classroom. The teacher was giving lessons in algebra and trigonometry. He said, "Increment equals B2 to 4AC. Right in the middle of the class I stood up and said, "Death to the king equals increment." What? Sir, delta equals B square minus 4AC. What are you saying? Sit down. Now delta equals death to the king. The hero of algebra and trigonometry is neither you nor Khomeini. Sir, it is not delta either. Delta is just a small triangle, stupid. Like you, sir. You should apologize right away, you stupid, emotional girl. Sir, you are just a stupid triangle. A girl from the back of the class shouted, "Delta equals death to the teacher." Ali shouted at Layli, "You idiot, emotional." I said involuntarily, "You are a stupid triangle, sir." Moran said, "Cut. What are you saying, stupid?" I turned to Moran and said, "Delta equals death to the king," and gazed at the camera. Moran said, "Do you know what you are saying, Shahzad?" Ali came toward me and said, "You are exhausted." I said, "You are a stupid triangle." I am alone like a student who is deeply in love with her trigonometry lessons. Stay alone, eat salad and soup and read For's poetry until you dry up. Parvana should have mentioned yoga. But we wrote king upside down. Ali said, "It was excellent, Ms. Shahzad. Your acting, your phrasing." Moran said, "What are you talking about? She ruined it. We have to do it again." Ali kept insisting that everything was excellent. I wasn't a good actress, Parvana. I had to pick up the broken cups and the tray, pour tea again, and bring everything back. I had to empty ashtrays, serve potato salad, sausage and Chinese food for dinner, and keep telling the poets, "Excuse me." Parvana, Layli was not a good actress either. She had to listen to the poems her husband wrote for other women, and bring those women tea. Layli had to pimp for her poet husband, and when Ali would finish his book of poetry, he would write at the beginning of his book, "To Layli." Ali was talking to Moran, "Let Shahzad do her acting." Parvana, Ali was the best actor. Everybody knew him. They gave him many prizes and the directors listened to him. Moran used to say, "As soon as a couple of people say something nice about you. Parvana, the Blue Danube is so wonderful. I should remember to tell Shahab to put it on so you can listen. I am sure you will enjoy it because my eardrum has healed completely." Moran said, "Action." I was sitting in the armchair, knitting. Ali, extremely happy, opened the door and came in. He showed me his book of poetry. "Finally, it is being distributed. See. I have dedicated the book to you." He opened the first page and read it, "To my wife, Layli." The phone rang. I picked it up. "Hello. Hello. Hello." Ali stared at the phone and me. No one answered, so I hung up. The phone rang again. Ali came and picked it up. There was a woman's voice. Ali pretended that no one was answering. The woman was saying, "You can't talk." "Okay. Come out and call me. Ali hung up and said, no one is answering. I could hear the frightening sound of the wedding women. Gladiola was not a red flower, and the carnation was a red flower. Only my paper flowers are natural. Layli told Ali, after all, we too have learned something in the university, Mr. Gertrude Stein. What? Gertrude Stein is not a man. I am not a man either. What? I took the book from Ali. I brought a piece of green cloth out of my chest. I opened its knot. I took out the marbles that the gypsy woman had given to me and placed them inside Ali's book. I said, may there be love, may there be affection. May the love of Ali be in the hearts of all women in the world. Ah no. May only the love of Layli be in the heart of Ali. I was tearing the sheets out of the book and throwing them out of the window. Ali's eyes were popping out of their sockets. He said, hey, don't do that. May the love of Ali be in the hearts of all women in the world. Ali ran toward me and tried to grab the book, but the book had no more sheets. I came slowly to the chair and sat. I picked up my knitting and began. Slowly I repeated repeatedly to the knitted stitches, may there be love, may there be affection. May it be only in Ali's body. Parvana, I was not a good actress. Layli was a good poet. Ali bent over the windowsill and looked at the sheets of his book. Moran said, cut. That was good. Cut. Dear Shahab, I am still looking for your sister. Did you see it? There was no hello or goodbye in her letter. You saw how restless I became when I read that long letter. My poor baby had poured her life into that letter and had sent it to me. Did you see how I lost patience? I came here immediately to see what these men were doing to my daughter. Poor girl, she wanted to change the world. Do you see my son? She has changed herself. She has disappeared like a drop of water in the ground. What do I know? Maybe, as you say, she is traveling somewhere. After receiving her letter, I waited for someone to answer her phone. Perhaps she left after writing the letter. I don't know. But where could she be that we cannot hear from her, or she cannot let you have news of her? She never did that, leaving us without any news from her. Now that I am here, I will stay here until I find her. You don't need me anymore. You have finished your school and you have a good job. And I cannot cut myself into two pieces. When I arrived in Iran, I saw my baby's picture in every movie theater. But she was nowhere to be found. She had locked up the house and left. I was happy thinking I had a home here that could be my baby's house of hope. That if this jackass leaves her, she will have her place. What else could I do? This man had his head up his ass. He kept talking about education and knowledge, but didn't have a shack for his wife to sleep in. And you know Shahzad, you couldn't stop her when she was in love with someone. After much trouble, I brought a locksmith and opened the door. I wish I had never seen it. Her house was so clean and beautiful. Her paper dummy was still on the wall. That piece of green cloth and those gypsy marbles were still in his chest. I sit here staring at the door waiting for her to come. I would have gone mad if it weren't for your phone calls. One day the mailman brought a letter. They had invited her for a ceremony. I don't know, it was for the movie, a celebration, I don't know what the hell that was. They also called. I said she was not there. They said that if she comes I should ask her to go. Going to that address myself might be a good idea. I thought I would see Moran, but she would disappear. I thought even if she didn't come, Moran should have some news from her. What do I know? I got up and went to the theater. I should see the movie first so that I can see the face of that other jackass, Ali, and then if I see him at the party I can recognize him and ask him about Shahzad. My dear Shahab, I hope you can see Shahzad's movie. I bought a ticket twice and watched the film twice. She had not described the movie properly. That pimp has turned my baby's life into a film and has shown it to everyone. That pimp shows himself as well. As if this is art, to show a man who can torture women. What do I know? Honestly, I didn't understand much of what they were doing. I went to the party. It was like the Day of Judgment. What a big salon. There were so many people, and there wasn't room for so much as a needle. How could I find anyone? I kept asking till I found Moran and Ali. But how could I get there? They were sitting right in the front rows. I tried to remember their place so I could go there and talk to them afterwards. I couldn't move from my place. Finally, everybody came in and sat down, and the room quieted. Men kept going up to the microphone, speaking and returning to their seats. I don't know how long I was there when I heard the word Shahzad on the microphone. They were saying the best actress, what do I know, principal role and things like that. Everybody was looking for Shahzad. They wanted to give my child a prize. My heart was going to jump out of my mouth. I thought Shahzad would fly and come there like an angel. I thought she would show up because they kept repeating her name. She would go up there, bow, and receive her prize. Her childhood image kept appearing before me. I saw a little girl with a short pleated dress with socks, pink shoes and a ribbon, who had flown up there to take a doll. What do I know, my dear? I was hallucinating. They wanted to give her a statue. I was constantly thinking this was the same doll Shahzad had thrown away. I was afraid. I hadn't seen my daughter for a few years, and now that I have come from the other side of the world, instead of my child, they show me her movie and her doll. They kept saying Shahzad, but she didn't show up. People were shouting hoorah, standing up and applauding. But there was no sign of my Shahzad. In my hallucination I thought, maybe Shahzad has long since given up this doll, and even if she is there she won't go to take it. I stood up and went forward. With the pain in my leg, I gathered my chador under my arm and descended the stairs. I softly told the man with the doll, "Sir, I am her mother. Shahzad has disappeared. Give me her doll. When she shows up I'll give it to her." The man gazed at me. I repeated whatever I had said into the microphone. People began to make such a noise that I got a headache. I took the statue and came down. Ali came running to me. He took my hand and sat me down next to himself. And shattered my hopes. He said, "Mom, where could she have gone?" I cried and repeated, "I don't know. I came to have tea with my child."